You got that scene at the beginning that goes on for way too long, and that's in slow-mo, and it looks so bad because they have to, both the berries are running at high speeds. In order for us to know what's going on, obviously there's going to be some slow-mo involved. And it really shows you just how bad the effects are. They really are that bad. The climax of this movie with that big bombastic fight, it's nothing but just CGI everywhere, and it looks like shit. Like, it really does. It's already kind of a lame fight. It already doesn't feel like it has all that much weight to it as a result of the context of it, because obviously the main Barry Allen is not, this is not his universe or whatever. He has to make things right eventually anyway. So there's already kind of a less weight to it. And that's the big climactic fight of the movie. And there's no weight to it at all. There's every now and then you get certain moments and things, especially with Michael Keaton Batman, because we have to milk the nostalgia. But other than that, it's just lightning, explosions, and this and that. And it just all looks so bad, especially like even when Flash is standing still, like it's bad. Even before that, when you have the Speed Force can see these different time periods for Flash to interact with, and that is just CGI nonsense, and it's not even trying to look real, right? I don't know who decided to make that visual choice, but it all looks video gamey. Like it really does. Like many times in this, especially with that, it's video game-esque type CGI. I have not seen a movie, whether it be a superhero movie or whatever, in a long time that has CGI this bad consistently. I think just about all of the effects in this movie look like shit, just about. But then we have that big fan service thing that happens towards the end, right? Because that's what this is. It's just endless moments like that. That has to do with, I won't say, but it has to do with different things in the DC fandom and things like that. References to other things, other movies, and it is so ugly because it looks like the time travel stuff. Where it just looks completely fake and computerized. It's terrible. I can't tell you enough how bad the effects are. Wait till you see it. Wait till you see it. The movie starts off with the stuff in the past. I think it was in the trailers that they put out. It starts off with the past Indy, and so they did de-age him. And it's probably some of the worst de-aging I've ever seen. And imagine Princess Leia in Rogue One. Imagine Luke Skywalker at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian. Imagine that. But imagine that goes on for way longer than needed to, and imagine that those people are actually, you have this like deep fake kind of face, and this person is getting into action scenes, full on action scenes. This is a full sequence, and it looks like shit. It is so uncanny. It's baffling. It looks so bad. It's so uncanny. When he's sitting there and he's not moving or talking or looking around, you can kind of get it. It doesn't quite look real, but it looks passable. The minute he starts moving, it looks horrible. It looks I honestly, it's like with the stuff at the end of the Flash, really all through the Flash, but especially the fan service stuff at the end. It's like with that. It's like, I don't know if I can accurately say how bad it looks. It's something that you have to see, even though the movie's not good. It's something that you kind of have to see for yourself just to see how bad it looks. It's really bad. I like this character and his duality, especially in this movie, where he's this badass. I mean, he goes from being like a superhero almost on the level of Punisher to being like a horror movie villain. Like he's like snatching people up out of nowhere. He's making cars hit people out of nowhere. There's a point where he starts stabbing somebody, and you could swear he was Ghostface from Scream. Like, I mean, the dude is crazy. I mean, he takes out so many people with ease, and he has this whole thing where he's like real calm, right? Like, people will be around him, some goons or whoever, the mafia boss or whatever, they'll have guns on him, and he'll just be super calm. Like, hey, whatever you got going on, do it somewhere else. Like, just completely calm because he's a badass. He knows he can take care of things. When he's not doing that, when he's just walking around and things like that, you can tell that there's pain in him, right? Like, even if you didn't know his backstory, you would know that there's something up with this guy. There's something off internally, and there's a lot of internal struggle in this, with him kind of looking at himself in the mirror and seeing what he's become, right? Because, I mean, he is vicious. This movie is violent. Not just him, but there's a character that gets his hand cut off, something like that. Robert Denzel puts a gun right in somebody's head and fucking shoots him in the head. There was this point where this guy was crawling away from him. He's walking all slow. grabs a shotgun, shoots the guy right in the ass. There's a moment, because there's this whole thing throughout the movie where, he tells her that her family is in this other place of the ship, so when they go there, she will see her family again. Obviously, he's lying. But she believes him. They go there. She realizes that he lied to her. And then he pulls out a picture of his daughter, and he's like, well, no, my daughter was very sick, and while I was gone, she died. And I was like, really? She died? It didn't seem like she was dead. Earlier on, you were about to kill yourself, and then you thought about your daughter, and you decided not to do it. So I'm thinking he keeps thinking about his daughter. I'm thinking he's trying to get to his daughter, right? Even though he's in an impossible situation, he's willing to do whatever it takes to potentially get back to his daughter. But his daughter's dead. When did his daughter die? Right? So she must have already been dead, or he knew she was dead from the beginning part where you see him flying the transport before it crashes. So it's like, but he didn't seem that way, right? It feels like almost like a last minute thing. It's weird. And then also he has this emotional moment to try to connect with the little girl. Basically, her parents are dead. Hey, my daughter's dead too. But it's completely undercut because she can't understand him. She doesn't even speak the same language. How much is she getting from that? When she's creepily going through the videos of his daughter, how much is she getting from that? She can't understand her. It's like, so we can talk about him now. So DJ, he was a character in the first movie. He didn't have much to do though. He wasn't good in the first movie either, but there wasn't much there other than him saying certain things. He's a coward. He couldn't swim. Now they are really focusing on this character, especially by the end. And the actor's not good. From what I heard, I guess he's from Vine. He got popular on social media or something like that.
Oh my God, he's dying! Call 911!
What's the number? Really, nigga?
I mean, the dialogue is bad pretty much throughout. Like, Jason Statham just has pretty much trailer lines pretty much throughout. But this character, DJ, not a good performance, and the dialogue is really, really kind of awkward. He feels like he broke into the movie from something else. He feels so out of place. Man, this is crazy. He just be talking, and it just none of it works. It's real awkward, right? Worst performance in the movie, and probably the worst character. And they lean on him so much by the end. I guess we can talk about the end now. We focus on all this other shit. The stuff with Dante already doesn't make sense. We'll get back to that. But we focus on so many other things. In the movie, it's like, not counting credits or whatever, the mid-credit and all that, I think it's just a little bit over 2 hours. Man, you really feel that, and it doesn't feel like it should be that long because we have so much time where we're focusing on other shit, right? John Cena's hanging around with Dom's son, trying to protect him, but also just having misadventures with him. Then you got Roman and Tej and the rest of that group doing whatever the fuck with Pete Davidson. They spend the whole movie, I guess, trying to get to the rendezvous point, but yet they keep getting from this location to this location, even though they're wanted. And it's like, at what point are they going to make it there? It's like Letty is there with Charlize Theron, Cypher, because she got injured and she got captured. So now they're in some max prison or whatever, and they're trying to get out, right? So you got that going on, and it's just, there's a lot. There's so many side things. And you're thinking, okay, so Dom is focusing on the main plot. He's the one focusing the most, but he gets sidetracked. Goes to be in some race, and luckily I guess Jason Momoa popped up, but he ends up meeting the secret sister of the woman he had his kid with, the one from Fast Five that barely had a character. It's like, why are we doing this? You already have way too many characters, way too much of this shit going on at all these different locations. It's a fucking mess. Why introduce another character? Why have somebody have a secret family member again? Why? It's stupid. But it's just, I challenge you, especially with this being over 2 hours, I challenge you not to think to yourself when John Cena's fucking jamming it out to Marky Mark, the Good Vibrations with Dom's kid. I challenge you not to think in that scene, where's the plot? Why are we doing this? What reason do we have for this? They get on a plane and do all the other stuff too, and it's misadventures. It's like, at some point we got to get to the plot. The main good thing about this movie, the thing that keeps me from really going in on it, is Kang, and that is played once again by Jonathan Majors. I think that's how you say his name. He, in Loki, at the end of Loki, he was chewing up scenery like crazy, and I wanted him to tone it down. right? I was like, man, this is too much. Somebody please tell this brother to tone it down just a little. It's a lot, too much. Here he's more like what I expected him to be when they got to him at the end of Loki, where he talks real low and quiet like this, other than when he starts to get upset, because he has this feeling about him that's regal, that's powerful, all knowing, and things like that. That's what you expect from this kind of character, especially with what he can do. And I think he did a great job with that in this. He's easily the standout. I honestly, so much of this movie I didn't really care about. But when it got to him and his backstory, and especially, you know, telling the story of him and Janet and what's going on with that and why he's stuck there and things like that. I really enjoyed that a lot, right? I really like this character. I actually think, other than some certain things that happen towards the end, I think he's the best villain we've gotten since Thanos. The story is very weak, right? If I had to, if I had to describe it, it feels like it's the bare minimum to just kind of get this done, like to just like cross over the finish line with this movie rather than trying to do something great or something that feels special and inspired. It feels like, hey, let's just think of all the Mario references we can and just throw them in there. I mean, just haphazardly, some of them. Like, some of them really work and flow with the story, and some of them really don't and feel forced, right? Like the part where they get on the carts, and it's essentially Mario Kart. It's there because Mario Kart, right? And it's a very popular game, so that's why it's there. But I really do not remember why they needed to get on carts. They needed to, get to Bowser in time, so they got on carts or something like that. It felt like it was there just because it's Mario Kart, right? So, it felt like it was Mario running from this thing to this thing to this thing that you recognize from the games. It's got a lot of references. It's got characters, Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong. You see him at one point. Cranky Kong's part of it. All the different, characters, Toad and things like that. But not really trying to tell a story, that much of a story, with those things. The characters feel underdeveloped. They have no chemistry with each other. They're trying to do this banter. Obviously, with movies like this, you're gonna want to have some banter with the characters to further develop them and their relationships. Have a little bit of team chemistry and things like that. They're busting their balls in kind of action movies and things like that. In this, the banter is horrible, right? Either it's lame and unfunny and predictable, very predictable for what it is. Oh, Dolph Lundgren's got a wig on. Hey, man, what's going on with that wig? And things like that. There's another character where he just talks about sexual shit. He's talking about, hey, do you know what a golden shower is? None of it's funny. Or it's banter that doesn't make sense. I think there was one line somebody said to 50 Cent. His name is Easy Day. And he does something, he throws somebody out of a truck or something, and somebody was like, I guess the only easy day was yesterday, or something like that, something similar to that. I was like, I don't even know what that means. I don't know what you mean by that. And there's some other lines like that too. So not only do they, obviously they have the blood when somebody gets shot. Obviously, a lot of people get shot. The blood doesn't look very good. But there's also times where, because there's a little bit of gore going on, where somebody will drop down from somewhere and their head will kind of explode or whatever into blood, and that doesn't look good. Pretty much every form of transportation, boat, plane, the trucks that they're on, that shit looks fake. It looks completely fake, and it takes you out of it. There's a scene where Stallone is flying a plane, and that plane looks fake the whole time. But then when they get to the place and they're on the mission, it's the first time when they really take on the villains. There's some explosions going around, and you see the plane flying and things like that. The plane's getting hit, and it all looks so fake, right? If you're watching the movie, you've essentially just time traveled, right? Because it feels so aged, it feels so dated. It feels like it's like over a decade old with these effects. Like, they didn't even try. They're obviously possessed, and they're getting worse and worse. And they do what they do in the original movie, where they have these cuts and things, and their faces are different, and their voices are different because they're being possessed, and it's the demon inside of them speaking for them and taking over. The girls' faces, I get that this movie, it seems pretty cheap, but their faces, like the makeup and things to make them look the way that they do, it looked really bad and it was making me laugh. And then the voice was just not working at all. And there was never a point where I thought that voice was actually coming out of these girls. And so I was laughing at, things that were supposed to be scary, I was laughing at during the possession stuff, hitting against the glass, and the stuff that happened in the church that's in the trailer, body in the blood, body in the blood. I was laughing. It didn't scare me at all, and it was to the point where they kind of looked like they may have eaten something they're allergic to and swelled up in an odd way or something like that. But they looked ridiculous. What it was reminding me of was the Green Lantern movie. That guy, I forgot his name. I'm sure he was in the comics or something. But remember, he got infected with parallax goo or whatever in that movie, and so his face was looking all weird. Oh, it's such a good idea to focus the movie on Rocket's backstory because it's so powerful. You know, he's naturally smart, or at least smarter than the other test subjects. And you see, you know, because he's still young, he kind of looks to the High Evolutionary almost like a father figure in these conversations that they have, which makes it even more, makes it affect you even more when things go sour, when he realizes just how expendable him and the rest of the test subjects are. I mean, and that moment with him finally escaping and what happens with the friends and all that. Oh man, that was a lot, right? Like I've seen people say that this movie's not kids shouldn't watch this movie or something like that. It's too much for kids, and honestly, maybe depending on the age, because like as a grown ass man, even I was tearing up. It was a lot. It is a lot. There's a there's a lack of logic once again, just like the last movie, where I have to ask this at this point, and this is kind of a trope with these movies at this point. They've gotten worse and worse with each installment. What kills people in this? Because characters can get stabbed, they can get shot, they can get anything, and they're perfectly fucking fine. You brought Hayden Panettiere back, Kirby, who was supposed to have died in the fourth movie, but she's just alive, and she's an FBI agent now. There's things that happen to her where it's like, okay, so she's just perfectly fine now, okay. But it gets really bad towards the end. There's a character that gets stabbed really bad, like a fatal wound, intimately stabbed. And it's like, okay, well, that character's dead. That character comes back, and not only comes back, but comes back jumping around and everything like nothing happened. People, it is the same day. I don't even think it's been that long. It's probably been like a couple hours, if that. And the character is perfectly fine after taking a fatal fucking wound to the stomach. I'm sorry, this is getting fucking ridiculous at this point. It just is. It's just getting ridiculous. It happens over and over again to the point where it takes the stakes away from the kills of the movie, because I'm always thinking to myself, is this fatal? Is this person dead? Even if they don't come back again, it could be like Kirby. It's so lame. It's getting ridiculous. It feels like it would work better as like a Disney Plus show or something, or just not even make it at all. Because when it comes down to it, it just kind of feels unnecessary. Continuity wise, I was having issues too, because I was like, wait, I just watched Secret Invasion earlier this year. You would think Secret Invasion didn't even happen, because Nick Fury doesn't mention or anything like that. He's on Saber. There's no Skrulls there. There was Skrulls there before. It's like there's a whole planet apparently of Skrulls that were working on like a peace treaty with the Kree. Really? Did the Skrulls that were on Earth trying to start World War III and cause nuclear fallout to take over our planet because they weren't given a habitable planet by Nick Fury and Captain Marvel? Did they know about those Kree? Did they know about that treaty? That they could just go live on that planet with them? Like, it's nonsense. It's like, I guess nobody's talking to each other. The effects are bad. Like, I thought the effects were bad in the trailer. They're very bad here. I think these are probably the worst effects I've seen in an MCU movie, because particularly with Captain Marvel, I've never liked that effect for Ms. Marvel's powers. I've never liked the way that they do Ms. Marvel's powers in this version. But yeah, that looks okay. I guess I've gotten used to it by now with Ms. Marvel. It's primarily with Captain Marvel. I think it looks worse than that first movie, probably because she had that inhibitor for so much of it. But her flying around, like if you look in the trailer and you think that does not look like a real woman, like at all. It's completely unbelievable, right? It's not convincing at all. It's exactly the same way in the movie every single time this woman flies. If I could compare it to something, in the Ms. Marvel show, there was parts where Ms. Marvel was doing a certain thing, and it was very obvious that she was just a CGI creation because she's not moving naturally like a human being. That's what it feels like when Captain Marvel flies. It is absolutely terrible. The villain, she doesn't leave much of an impression, like at all. All right. You don't really get into her mindset all that much, or really give her all that much to do. That's what I'm saying. It's Thor: Love and Thunder. It's like Gore the God Butcher, where like you have a God Butcher here, a guy going around killing gods. They don't even show it, right? Like this character feels underdeveloped, right? This needs to be an actual character, and she isn't. She's just like a foil. Like she's just somebody for them to fight. And that's it. And then, even though she's getting some hits in on Captain Marvel, which is cool, right? Like that was one of my criticisms of the first movie, was Captain Marvel was just like overpowered, and like there was never a point where there were any stakes because of it or tension. Here there is, like, she is taking them on, but there was never a point where I fully felt like she was gonna defeat them, really, especially by the end. Like by the end they're just wailing on her. Like it's 3-on-1. Captain Marvel's there. It's like there's never a point where I was like, okay, yeah, she's gonna win, even though she is getting some hits in, so she can fight them, but she's it never really feels like she's going to actually physically defeat them. The overall writing is just not good. The villains are also worse. I mean, the villains, their motivations, like 1 minute it seems like it's to, and it doesn't even make sense too, and this might be a slight spoiler, I won't go completely into it. I want to spoil the whole thing, but I won't. It feels like they're just trying to take their powers early on because they're not unworthy about it, and there's this whole thing Helen Mirren goes into where it's like, those powers were stolen away from us. If you had money that was stolen from you, wouldn't you pursue the person that stole that money from you, and things like that, right? Which I thought was pretty good. Helen Mirren's good in this movie. Then it feels like their motivation completely changes to, oh no, we're not really trying to go after you or take your powers or anything. She actually stops Lucy Liu from doing it, and we just want to restore our realm, or the realm of the gods or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, if you're only trying to do that, you might as well just work with them at this point. What's the point of even fighting? But whatever. Then one of them gets captured on purpose so that she can get a golden apple so they can use it to restore their place. And then one of them turns on the rest of them and decides to be full-on villain and use it to like terraform the earth into their realm, like restore it on earth, which will destroy the earth, which felt really forced just because we still need these characters to be villains, and we need this craziness with all this stuff going on in the third act with like all these like different creatures and things that involve Skittles and black unicorns and shit. It is crazy by the end, but not really all that fun, like not really in that fun of a way. It just feels like it's like, oh shit, we gotta go big, and it was just kind of lame. But the villains, they seem like they just kind of do whatever. And then also at the end, it turns out all you needed was the staff, I guess, to restore your realm. And it's like, well, why didn't you do that then? I mean, just blatantly goes against what they wrote earlier, at least as far as what I got, because it's really convoluted. Like I said, generic, right? You got a corporation, an evil corporation that's trying to do whatever the fuck. I'm actually not even sure exactly what they're trying to do. They want to protect their assets abroad. It's like, okay, is that all? You're creating all these robots and doing all this with this scarab and trying to kill people and stuff like that. It's another thing. It's a corporation that has its private military or militia or whatever that's just able to do whatever the fuck. Off the top of my head, you had that with Venom, with Carlton Drake, I think that was his name, Riz Ahmed. You have that in Spider-Man Miles Morales, the video game. You have that in a lot of superhero stuff where, like, if a corporation is big enough, they can just do whatever. Like, they can be killing people in the streets and whatever. I know corporations can be bad, but this is specifically a superhero thing. So you have that going on. Susan Sarandon's character in this is completely one-dimensional. She's just the villain. I mean, that's it. She doesn't really get much development other than that. I'm not sure what she's trying to do, like I said. There's a villain underneath her that's pretty one-dimensional. He's there to fight Blue Beetle because he has these attachments and things, so he's able to fight Blue Beetle, like actually fight him, whereas everybody else is just kind of getting thrown aside and beaten by him, these thugs with guns, because he's bulletproof. And that character turns out to be way more interesting by the end, because there's like kind of a montage of his backstory, and that, if they'd have made that more of a thing throughout the movie, that could have made me actually care for that character and make me feel a little bit conflicted whenever him and Blue Beetle would go at it. But they didn't do that. They saved that to the end. So it kind of, it hurts the character overall because I didn't care about him at all up to that point. Oppenheimer, he seems like a good dude at times, but then you kind of question him like, okay, do you really feel remorse for this? Are you really feeling bad? Or are you just playing, the remorseful angle so that you can kind of still have a good image, right? Because, forever, he will always be, him and the scientists, but especially him, will always be tied to nuclear weapons, the atomic bomb. And then, obviously the thing that you're coming to see, right? I think they call it the Trinity test, when they finally test the atomic bomb. That has such good buildup throughout the movie, which is really great. But the scene itself, it is perfect, right? You feel like you're right there with them, right? When, it's such good tension, it's so dramatic. And when they're about to hit that button, your heart stops, right? And the use of sound in that scene, oh my God, the whole thing is just so fantastic. But Sejanus does something during the games, and I was like, this feels completely unreal. This doesn't seem like this could actually happen right now. I was like, this motherfucker should be fucking dead. But the big one, I'm gonna spoil this. So they get to the end of the games, and there was a bombing that happened, and so Gall, the game maker, the person that's all about getting viewership and making this games work, she ends up deciding, you know what, we're just gonna kill them all. And so she puts the snakes in the games, and the snakes start just killing them. And so Lucy is the last one, and Snow actually cheated so that the snakes wouldn't attack her. And so that's why he ends up getting sent to District 12 and things like that. And I was thinking to myself, that doesn't make sense.
Why do we have a winner? I mean, if we just wanted to intimidate the districts, why not round up 24 of them at random and execute them all at once? Hope.
Hope?
Hope. It is the only thing stronger than fear.
It doesn't make sense with the earlier movies, and it doesn't make sense with this movie. This character would not do this, and very obviously she wouldn't do it because it wouldn't make it would be negative for the games, right? So you're getting these people invested in these tributes and invested in these games and invested in Lucy even, right? She got the most donations, I'm pretty sure, because she sang that song, and the Capitol people were like moved by and all that, and you're just going to kill her? You're just going to force her to die by the snakes, even though she's technically the victor of these games? You don't think there's going to be backlash to that? That was fucking stupid, and it's only there to set up Snow cheating so that he could get sent to District 12. The movie is not funny enough to really mean anything like just purely entertainment, and it's not smart enough to actually do what it seems like it's trying to do when it comes to actually having a point when it comes to race relations and things like that. So it ends up just being kind of pointless, right? They have really awkward moments that are not awkward in like a funny way or an entertaining way or poignant way. It's just awkward, right? Where, the mother and Ezra go out of the room, they come back, the dad's playing Ordinary People by John Legend on the piano. And it was painfully awkward. And that's pretty much the movie. It's awkward, right? Jonah Hill's sitting there and he loses all social skills, right? You're talking about him going to Langston Hughes Park and all this other shit, just making up shit. And for what? Like, you're just causing more tension with them. And it gets to the point where other people in the family start treating them badly too, and so to where it's like, well, you didn't really develop these characters, so right now I'm just rooting for them to just break up. And the movie is hypocritical as shit anyway, because it tries to be like, oh, well, Amir tells Ezra's mother, oh, you treat me as just my race and that's it, and you don't treat me like a person. And then you see these characters and it's like, well, they're all boiled down to their race and they're all types.
Girl, we just want to say congrats. You marrying this white man.
Girl, all these white people in here.
If you like it, we love it, right?
I stormed the Capitol. I did. I was there. Ezra tried to stop me. He's a liberal cuck, but he's a good man.
They have this whole thing where it's like, oh, we're gonna clean up before he finds out, things like that, which already doesn't make sense. You have all these people coming over, you have all these celebrities coming over. People are gonna post about it. They're gonna do that, obviously. And it would get back to LeBron James. Even before the parties even started, they've already started fucking up this mansion. Already, before the parties even started. And the setup of it is already kind of weak anyway, because they're like, oh, well, we need 500 people to come by in order for us to, be able to make the money back, right? And they don't have a set number of how much money they need. They're not really saying how much they actually need to do, which if I knew how much money they exactly wanted or needed, at least that would kind of justify why they're so desperate to get the money by doing this in a way that's obviously not going to work and they're going to end up in jail. But they don't establish that either. But even after that, like Damon, yeah, he's an idiot, but at a certain point he becomes a complete idiot to where like Kevin should have cut this dude off years ago, because he goes out of his way to fuck up the plan. He's driving around in LeBron James' car. He's tailoring LeBron James suits and then wearing them at the party. It is ridiculous. It's like these people, not only is this stupid, it's like these people want to get caught.
Nigga, you got these hoes in here stealing. Have you seen how out of control this party is?
Well, like in the go viral type way. Man, look at all this money we done made, bro. Destiny is good.
It's based on a true story, right? And I didn't know what the true story was watching the movie. And just watching the movie, I'm thinking, okay, this is already outlandish, so it wasn't part of the true story, I'm sure. But I'm sure the true story was like nothing like this. It was probably just a bear did cocaine and went crazy for a little bit. And it's even less than that. So there was a point where I was watching it and the bear just starts downing like a whole brick of cocaine. I mean, it just takes so much cocaine. And I'm watching it and I'm thinking, that bear would be dead. I know it's a bear and not a human, but that bear would be dead. And in the real story, the cocaine drops from the plane, right? So that part was accurate. And the bear did ingest the cocaine, but the bear died right after that. And I guess they stuffed the bear and like mounted it somewhere or something like that. That's really it. There was no attack, at least not from what I read. None of that. So really, this movie feels like, oh man, a bear did cocaine. That's gonna be crazy. But then that's it. They don't really have anything else other than that to go along with it, story-wise, character-wise. The characters are just kind of there because we need somebody to run away from the bear or to die from the bear. Just randomly throwing up these little black bugs, throwing up blood, stabbings, set on fire. I mean, it is crazy. It's crazy. Like, it was like endless after a certain point, right? Like once the mom gets into that hallway and just the carnage that she does in the hallway with the neighbors, it's a lot. It really is, especially by the end. By the end, these characters are drenched in blood. There is so much blood. I mean, it is like worst nightmare level shit. The new Tinkerbell here, that is Yara Shahidi, and there's always going to be some kind of controversy with that, changing her race, which obviously I didn't care about. But you did that and caused this stir and gave the character nothing to do. Like, she has even less to do in this movie. Because in the original movie, and this might be because she very obviously looks like a grown woman and Peter Pan looks so young. So maybe that's why, but in the original movie, Tinkerbell clearly had a crush on Peter to the point where she hated Wendy and even tried to have the Lost Boys kill her. And that ends up causing a rift between her and Peter, and he banishes her and things like that. She ends up turning on them. So there's more storyline there with that character. That was an actual character in the original movie. Here, she's just on the side, right? Every now and then there's a really awkward close-up shot because she doesn't look very good. The flying doesn't look very good. Tinkerbell doesn't look very good in this movie, but that's about it. Every now and then she makes people fly with her dust or whatever, but she has no real storyline or character. She's kind of there. So one of them is when King Triton destroys Ariel's grotto. It's a very dramatic scene. It's heartbreaking because you know just how much that stuff means to Ariel. And Triton he's snapped. And he is actually pretty scary, right? And the animation is beautiful, and the colors and all that. It really works. And then in this movie, because of the performances, it's not the same at all. So Javier Bardem, he's already in the grotto and everything, and he just comes down. You went to the surface. I told you not to, or whatever. He barely ever talks above this. It's really bad. You disobeyed me. So he has the trident and he starts blasting the grotto, and it's just him kind of like swimming up and just shooting a beam at it. Him and Ariel are kind of fighting over it at one point, and it's like this has none of the same weight as that original scene. None of it. I'm not feeling the same thing at all. It's like. It just completely pales in comparison. And then when he's done, blowing things up, Ariel's breaking down like in the original movie, but he leaves and he's like, "You'll never leave again." And I was like,
Never leave again.
I mean, it's like, do you guys even want to be here? And then, okay, so then they build him up so much because you have to have the audience believe that they have this history, right? You have the flashbacks and things like that, but you have to feel it from these two actors and from the characters, and they do a really good job of that. Like when they interact, like early on, you can feel the respect and love that they have for each other, but there's always that underlying thing where it's like, this is about to turn bad, isn't it? Because of certain things that haven't been revealed, and they reveal certain parts of it, like, a little at a time before finally showing the whole picture. And that was really, really good. But because they build it up so much, because you feel it from these characters, and it's so believable, by the time it gets to that final fight, you're at the edge of your seat. I mean, it's that exciting. You see the point of view from both people. You see what emotions they're coming into the fight with, and it makes it just that much better to watch. Wood chipper, the girl that I guess was one of their friends, was trying to figure out where to go, and so she decided to just walk around in the woods on her phone. It's stupid. And so Pooh started running after her, got her. But he puts her in, I guess it's a wood chipper or something, puts her in something. And you see like a blood just rushing out. And it looks so fucking fake. It looks so bad. And then later on, the girl that was in the jacuzzi, they put her to sleep, they bring her out into the street, they tie her up, bring her out into the street, and they start running her over with a car. I don't know where they got the car from. I guess they just took it. It might have been that other girl's car. I don't know. But they run her over slowly too. And you see her head start to like flatten and everything. You see her eye pop out of the socket. And for a second there, it's like, whoa, this is, all right, this is some gore, right? Like you're actually kind of getting a reaction out of me. Then you see the blood spraying out of her. And it's like, that looks fake. That looks fake. There's also there's a scene with some bees that looked really fake too. And it's like, man, what is this? Like every time, the horror doesn't work either, because every time like a kill will happen and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that was kind of all right, I'll start laughing immediately afterward because of how bad the blood effects are or how ridiculous they are in these outfits. Man, there is never a point in this where they don't just look like people in costumes. It is ridiculous. It's so obvious that it's a dude in a mask. The hands, they're clearly just yellow gloves. It is so obvious. And it gets to the point where he's thinking back on Christopher Robin. That's the reason why they don't kill him right away, is because he's remembering the past and stuff like that. He goes to look in the mirror and you can clearly tell that there's a man inside of that mask. You can see through the eyes. You can see there's a dude in there. And it's like, it's so bad. You almost think that there's going to be a twist where it actually is people in costumes and Pooh and them died forever ago. You almost think that, because that's not the case, but you almost think that because of that, because it looks so bad. The rest of the movie, you do have this back and forth with Indy and Helena. And you have this little boy there too. I didn't care for that boy, and I didn't think the actor was all that great. But what you have then is you have probably one of the most repetitive movies I've seen in a long time. So they'll be looking up something, trying to figure out things with the dial, or figure out this thing with this book that they die for, or whatever's going on. They'll be figuring things out. And then the villains will pop up, Mads Mikkelsen, and the rest of those like Nazis or whatever. They'll pop up. And then it's almost like they have like fast travel or something, right? Like they always know where they are and they just pop up constantly over and over again. They'll capture one of them, or they'll have them, guns on them. They'll get away and then they'll get to the next place and it'll happen all over again. And this movie is fucking 2.5 hours, and it's that over and over and over again. It's so fucking boring. It is just, it's uninteresting. It feels generic. It kind of feels like if you put Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland in this as Nathan Drake and Sully, this could probably be a sequel to that like lame Uncharted movie that came out last year. It kind of does feel like that, right? That movie felt like a generic version of Indiana Jones, and now this feels like that. Like, it's crazy. It's funny how the world works, huh? He, at points, he is a little bit charismatic, probably because he's having to act off of Vin Diesel, who is, for somebody who wants to get super sappy with all this family shit, has like no personality. He's like a block of wood at this point.
You remember my father?
Hernan Reyes.
Yes.
I remember he thought he had his foot on the city's neck. But you know what happened? I took him down.
Even so, with that, Jason Momoa just feels like he just got on set and just had fun. Right? He's just too much of a cartoon character. A lot of his dialogue is just, he's like cringeworthy, and he's so cartoonish that he comes off as like a joke more than like actually being intimidating. Even if what he's doing is, he still comes off as a joke. And like I said, he can do anything, right? He can plan when somebody's going to be at this place to shoot them or have a sniper ready. He can do this and that and this and that and this and that. And never really making any sense out of it. There's so many parts of this movie where it's like, unless you're like watching it completely lobotomized, if you think at all, the script completely falls apart. I mean, when we actually do get back to the plot instead of just going around doing whatever, there's nobody that he really, I feel like he's all that connected to that he can really feel bad for and take care of. Like in the first movie, he had that fat guy that he was trying to help help lose weight that he worked with. There was also Chloe Grace Moretz's character. He was trying to help her out of a bad situation, right? So you got to invest in those characters and him helping them. And there's even some of that in the second one. But you don't have that here. You don't really get to know them enough. But in order for that to really be a thing, right? They're just, that's a city of people, and he's protecting the people because that's really what the villains are doing. They're just fucking with them, at least early on. And I guess we can talk about the villains. So the villains, they start off really, like I said, just kind of fucking with the people, right? Like, they have this whole mafia thing going on. I guess they were asking for like money from some of them and stuff like that, I guess. The story, especially with them and what they're doing, is so convoluted and crazy. It's like, there's some drugs that get involved with like the stuff and the people that Robert took out in the beginning that somehow is connected. They're buying drugs from their enemy to sell on the street. They're having these like hoax terrorist attacks for some reason. It is a mess, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I was like, simplify this, like, right? This isn't a very long movie. Just have it to where they're fucking with the people, I guess, right? I mean, but you have to get the whole thing with the CIA involved and things like that. So I guess it has to be a larger plot going on, but you don't do enough with it. There's not enough development. And so it just ends up being kind of confusing. I was like, what are they actually trying to do? Like I said, the animation grew on me to the point where I really liked it. The character designs, I think Asha and Magnifico, I think those work. The Queen too. But she has these friends that are clearly supposed to make you think of the dwarves from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. They all just have like one character trait. They're really forgettable. There's one that's always negative about everything. I kind of liked that one. He reminds me of me. No, I'm kidding. And then she has like a best friend that with the glasses that works at the castle or whatever. I liked her too. She was like the closest one to her. I was like, okay, maybe have that one or those two and maybe one or two others. But with this whole group of characters, it was like, man, you really didn't give them much to really do. You really didn't really justify this other than kind of a not all that great reference to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I mean, that's kind of it. But their designs were completely uninspired to me. But where it really gets embarrassing is the villagers or the people in the kingdom or whatever. They are so like generic looking. They are so bland. They're just like a townsperson or villager or whatever. They look like NPCs. I was like, man, you could have put a little. I know they're just in the background or whatever. They're not. They don't really do anything. But at least put a little bit more time into them. I mean, because it's embarrassing for a Disney movie. I mean, it really is. Later on, when he's fighting all those guys, he slaps one of the dudes and he's able to slap half of his face off. It's like, wait a minute, he slapped that one girl multiple times and all she had was like a little gash. Like, none of this makes sense. None of it. As far as the way they get taken out, that one girl is able to kill Piglet with a sledgehammer with a couple of hits. Pooh is able to survive fucking everything. He gets jumped by those guys, like Michael Myers style, and he's perfectly fine. He gets hit with a car later on after that by Christopher Robin, and he just gets right back up. It's like, what is it? You were willing to kill Piglet, but you weren't willing to kill Pooh because you want there to be a sequel? Is that what's going on here? Because that's the only thing that makes sense. There's just very little setup here. It's a mess. The kills are lame and ridiculous. You got these costumes for Winnie the Pooh and Piglet that never look real. These effects, especially with the blood, just completely takes away from the kills because of how bad that looks. It's not good. It's not good. You don't care about any of these fucking strangers that you're following instead of Christopher Robin, who's just strung up for most of the movie. It's just, this is a lame movie. It's like, this is crazy. How did this, because I looked this up to make sure, this was in the theater. It got a theatrical release. How the fuck did that happen? This has direct-to-VOD written all over it. It screams direct-to-VOD. You can hear it from miles away. It's like, how the fuck? I don't understand. This is awful. It really is that bad.